Hi there, my name is Kay Moon and I'm a twin soul channel and Western astrologer. And this is a video about the full moon in Aquarius occurring on July 23rd, 2021 at 10:36 p.m. if you happen to be on the eastern seaboard of the United States. If not, please check a time zone converter for your local time. This video will be the full moon in Aquarius update for twin souls and those in divine connections. In the Lightworker energy update for this lunation, I provided deep explanation of what this moon speaking to Pluto and Saturn means. And I would say that it's extraordinarily significant because of the way it's having a conversation with Venus and Mars and with the divine feminine energy here. I'm not going to cover contextually the entirety of what it means. My encouragement would be to watch that video if you'd like to fully understand that context. But essentially, this is a period of time in this full moon in Aquarius where we are asked to take a look at how far we've come in relationship to the goals that we set out for ourselves this year back in January, February, specifically right around that new moon in Aquarius point during the second week of February. You can go back and listen to the new moon in Aquarius video if you'd like additional insights. But my recommendation would just be to have a listen to the Lightworker energy update for this lunation. This particular full moon is about choice, and it's about taking a look at where we have had some of our own fears hold us back from the things that we've said we wanted to manifest. This is in particular true because of the way this full moon is speaking in harmony with divine feminine energy here, and also speaking in non-harmony with mundane feminine, our human feminine energy here inside of Virgo. The yin conjunct to Venus and the sextile to Juno lends itself to having a moment of needing to face some really difficult truths in the divine feminine energy fields and energy templates. We also have Chiron speaking to divine feminine energy via a trine, which is bringing up a lot of woundedness for divine feminine energies. We've got her having a conversation with Nessus via a square, which is an angle of tension. And that's bringing up a lot of looping thoughts, looping behavior patterns, looping, how can I put this? Obsessive and compulsiveness in divine feminine energy fields as she stands apart from divine masculine energy there. They are no longer moving in harmony in the way that they were at the beginning of the year. They will move in harmony again at the end of the year. But you may notice that this is a period of time where you feel particularly drawn back or self-focused in your connection, whether you are in some form of 3D union, communication, or complete separation. You may notice that there is a dialing back of the energies at this time between the two, feminine and masculine energies. Because of the way she's having these conversations, she's also speaking to the shaman's asteroid by sextile. She is speaking to Saturn here by sextile. This whole thing, this is a really big time. It's a really big turning point for divine feminine energies. And I feel like I touched on this in the Juno retrograde video where I went in depth about understanding what this particular retrograde period would be about. And I spoke about this just now in the Lightworker energy update. But the deal is that we're at a choice point where we get the opportunity to choose if we're going to repeat a cycle or if we're going to do a new thing. Choice points happen every year. Every year, there are these moments in the collective energies where, it's like, okay, are you going to leap forward, or would you prefer to go a little bit deeper on the lessons you've been learning up until now? And whether you go deeper or whether you go forward is 100% up to you. There's nothing better necessarily about going forward. if there are lessons in going deeper that could potentially be missed and cause snags in the future. There's nothing better about staying in the same place and going deeper if you have already learned what there is to learn, but you just feel safe in doing this instead of going forward. This particular choice point speaks directly to a few different things for divine feminine energies that are coming through. One of them, for some of you, whether you're incarnate in male or female body or somewhere in between, it doesn't matter. We all have innate masculine and feminine energy. Whether this, for some of you, this is talking directly about a choice to start or end a partnership or a marriage that is what, and figuring out whether or not, or figuring out which choice is in alignment for you is the best way I can put it. I've been speaking to many people in the last couple of weeks, last 30 days, as Divine Feminine has locked into a strong position here with Saturn. Saturn is the boundary maker, the integrity creator. And when we have gotten into a circumstance that doesn't serve us for the feminine side of the energy, for the masculine side of the energy, Saturn can actually be the separator and the harsh teacher. But if you look at the mythology and you study it closely, what Saturn provides for the other entity in that story, Gaia, is a return to her integrity and her ability to do what she was created to do. Saturn, speaking to divine feminine in the way that Saturn is at this time, is inviting her to restore her own wholeness, restore her own integrity, restore her ability to do what she was created to do. And there's an exceptionally strong call on divine feminine energies at this period of time to get into wholeness with self, the parts of self that have been abdicated in order to maintain certain relationships. This particular transit is inviting her to reclaim those parts of self, bring those parts of self home. This could potentially be with parenting or nurturing your own inner child. This could be having to do with reclaiming a part of yourself that since you got married, you decided you would put away because maybe your partner is a bit uncomfortable with that part of you. It's time to bring that part of you home. And for some of you, this may have more to do with getting into clarity about whether or not staying in the relationship that you are presently in is actually aligned for you, or whether or not it's time to let it go. I can't tell you what's right for you. You'll know in your heart as you're listening to this what it is you need to do. But I will say that this particular full moon, no matter what you're called to do, is going to force you to face your fears as you move through bringing and repatriating parts of yourself, bringing those parts of yourself home. Pluto speaking with this full moon and with the last new moon and the full moon before that, Pluto's been playing a really big role this summer in the ways in which we are all being asked to evolve by letting something go so that something else can live. The Plutonian energy is the energy of the resurrection cycle. It's the energy of death, afterlife, and rebirth. It's the death card in the tarot, if you are familiar. However, most of the time, we really only want to focus on the rebirth, but that's not possible without the death. And so this particular full moon is asking us, what are we willing to give up in order that something we want a lot, want most, and deeply desire can live? It's a full moon of sacrifice. A lot of people don't like to hear that word. We don't like to deal with that. But for many of us, it's asking us to pay attention to, frankly, that which has been dead is already dead, and to stop trying to get that dead horse to live again, and to move forward, and to give ourselves the permission that we need to face what we are afraid of on the other side of letting the dead thing go, letting the corpse go. If we let the corpse go, then we have to face that maybe, that marriage failed and it didn't work out. And We have to face the things about ourselves that might be difficult to look at. If we let that job go, we have to face certain things about ourselves that might be painful to understand, that maybe we weren't built to do that thing that our dad always wanted us to do. Maybe we were built to do something else. If we let that, those friendships go, maybe we have to face some difficulties about ourselves around the ways in which we allowed ourselves to be influenced by people who didn't necessarily have our best interests in mind. This full moon in Aquarius is revelatory. It reveals a lot if we are willing to focus, but there is much in the world of distraction. And I spoke about that at length inside the Lightworker energy update. So if you want to understand how to navigate these energies a bit better, I recommend you have a listen to that, because it's going to illuminate, okay, what are the choices here? And what are the things that could really detract from my moving forward at this time? For divine feminine energy, one of the messages that really has been coming through in the last 2 weeks that I didn't get to put in the Juno retrograde or in the channel messages for this year, but is definitely showing up now. And as I see this full moon in Aquarius and see Saturn speaking to her, I see why it's coming up. It's an energy of reckoning, and the reckoning specifically has to do with what it was that you were doing, what it was that you stepped into as a result or as a way to cope with any pain or any challenges to do with coming home to, awakening to, becoming aware of being a twin soul. For many, the recognition that you are a twin and experiencing twin soul experiences, this is not an easy path. This path is a real recognition that in a lot of ways, you have, once you've met your counterpart, that you are living with a leash on your soul. And that's not easy to recognize, that there's a tethering inside of you that you can't break. You can't sleep it away. You can't work it away. You can't sex it away. You can't, drink it away. You can't write it away. You can't do any of those things. And so for many, the message specifically was this: there are many who, on the point of awakening, moved into a healing journey and an awareness journey that opened their psychic gifts. Many stepped into healership, many stepped into reading, many stepped into other of the metaphysical or healing arts. And that was a necessary step in your journey for your own healing. However, that was not a step that was integritous to whom you're meant to be on planet Earth and fulfilling your greatest potential. That was, and continuing, here was the message specifically, continuing on this path will only further delay any growth that is meant for you in the totality of your twin experience, because it is actually no longer healing for you to continue to be a healer or a reader. But that was a step for your own healing, but you have healed past the point where that is still useful to you. It is time for you to either take on dreams that you knew you had prior to meeting your twin and repatriate those dreams to yourself, those goals to yourself, because those were the things that are actually in service to the collective. For some of you, it has nothing to do with being a reader, has nothing to do with the psychic arts or healing. Those things came online, but you had other things to do. Awakening to being a twin soul may have diverted you. However, it's time to return to the things that it was that you were inspired to do, challenged with doing, and committed to doing prior to the distraction, diversion of the challenge, the pain, the heartbreak of the awakening. And so this was a difficult message to receive, because I certainly have some of those things in my own life, for sure. But even as I say it and I share it with you, and I watch how Chiron is just forcing the divine feminine to really look at her wounding about the process she went through as she moved from feminine to divine feminine. And Saturn is demanding her wholeness and integrity at this time. And Nessus has just got her looping in these thoughts. It's time. It's time. Shaman's asteroid is talking about, like, look, what did you learn from this? Get the lessons and keep it moving. Because there are some ways in which, if you can, like I said, the message was specifically, if you continue to hang out in this space that was meant to be your infirmary, as if it was your destiny, you're going to hold back a lot of the blessings that are there for you on the other side. Many of you, upon awakening, went through this space of becoming reader, becoming empath, becoming healer, but that is not your final destination, and it is time to move on. There were other dreams, there were other goals, there are other things that you are meant to expand into. And this full moon in Aquarius is asking you to take a good look and ask yourself, your channel may be successful, your practice may be successful, you may be helping people, but the question you're being asked at this point from a soul level perspective is that really enough for you? Not is it enough for other people, but are you satisfied? Are you fulfilled? Do you feel like you are living up to your spirit's potential at this time? And if that answer is no, it is time to move forward. Okay. And move forward, of course, in faith and in trust that, what's meant for you can't miss you, and move forward that if you're trust that if you're moving forward, so too will your counterpart in whatever way spirit is showing them is right for them. But that was the message. It was a big one. And so I invite you to step into your own personal meditation with that. And if you're struggling in any way in what your light work is meant to be and how you're meant to serve, if this is resonating for you that, okay, yeah, I did kind of get stuck in this loop of making money in this way or doing light work in this way, and it's time for me to return. If you want to look at what that return is meant to be for you, because you're not really sure what it is, book a reading. I'm over at kmoonastro.com. There are personal readings available that will really help you. We can dive deep on what's there for you in your chart around the ways you're meant to serve, the ways you're meant to help and heal, the ways you're meant to share your light work. And I have found that for people who take a reading on looking for that kind of what's my mission, my purpose, my soul work, it actually ends up validating for them things that they intuitively knew, but just didn't have the clarity to articulate and name and point to for themselves. And we can look at some tools to really get you started and moving in that direction. So just thought I would share that. It's a pretty big message, but you'll also start to see collectively as you're looking around that we are going to see people who hold divine feminine energy or anchor in that polarity really start to shift what they're doing in their channel work, shift what they're doing in their practice, shift what they're doing as their light work. And it's because we're at that threshold point where it's like, okay, whatever you had to do to heal, great, you did it. Now let's move into how we can be of greater service beyond just what we had to do to get through the painful parts of awakening as a divine soul or divine counterpart. If you're already hearing something that resonates for you, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I invite you to be a part of the community. I'm here every new and full moon. And let's just give this a pause for a moment. I'm going to do the divine masculine energy next and talk about the changes going on that side of the energetic field after I show a brief YouTube video. Let's see if YouTube wants to show it. All right, welcome back. So let's talk about what's going on the divine masculine side of the energy. So many of you know that I read divine feminine as Juno. I read divine masculine as Jupiter. They were the divine counterparts in the mythology. There's been a complete erasure of Juno, but look, I repatriate her as I do my astrological work because I think that's the right thing to do. Jupiter here is sitting at the 0 degree mark of Pisces, and we're regaining some of the Aquarian insight and momentum and coming out of some of the Piscean sleepiness as Jupiter retrogrades back from Pisces and into Aquarius. Aquarius is a sign that has a lot of divine insight, momentum, a lot of quantum leaps forward. It's the sign that governs new technology, but also collective energy and the internet. And so, with Jupiter sitting in Pisces and Aquarius, there's just so much psychic and frenetic energy passing back and forth in the fifth dimension between divine counterparts, among divine counterparts, soul groups, and some of you call them monads. I'm not as familiar with that concept, but there's a lot of psychic energy passing back and forth, specifically on divine masculine grid lines. The divine masculine energetic field has a lot to do with what we are willing to stand for, what we are willing to create, co create, and procreate, and that which we feel the need to protect and provide for. It's a high fertility energy, a highly fertile energy of expansion and growth, faith and optimism. But when Jupiter moves retrograde, we get more of an internally focused energy that invites us to source our light from within as opposed to sourcing it from the outside. And this is a very particular type of energy at this point in time because the divine masculine energy fields, as it's winding up its transit through Aquarius, and Aquarius is all about the greater good of the collective. It's about we, not me. It's about us, not I. The Aquarian energy, as Jupiter wraps up, is actually taking a look at energies of how do I include me in we? How do I include myself in the us as opposed to falling on my sword and making it so that I am consistently counting myself out as a sacrifice for the collective? How instead do I include myself in the collective and make myself a part of the group benefit here? How do I get what everyone's getting as opposed to just giving myself away until I have nothing? And the reason why this is coming online for divine masculine energy fields is because of the conversations he's been having with Eris and with Lilith, infusing his energetic field at this time as he wraps up that transit through Aquarius. There's been a real look through the Aquarian transit for the divine masculines. Look, if I can't do it in integrity for everyone, then I have no business doing it at all. As he kicked off the year with Saturn, I have to be whole. I cannot be split. And many experienced, just as we opened the union window, you witnessed the divine masculine energy say, you know what? I just have to be in union with myself right now. I can't split myself anymore. It doesn't work for me. And now we have divine masculine energy speaking with Eris. And Eris's energy is all about that righteous riot and that righteous rage around where we've been excluded, disenfranchised. We have him speaking with Lilith, and that Lilith energy wants things her way, and she's sensitive to rejection as well. And so, where Jupiter is sitting now is having this greater conversation around, you know what? I can't continue to fall on my sword for everyone else. I have to be willing to stand for who I am and what I want. There's a real reckoning on divine masculine sides of the energy, very different than the divine feminine side, but it's a reckoning nonetheless of paying attention to not making self a sacrifice for other people anymore. And so this is a really potent energy around recognizing, like, okay, I see that at this time I need to stop doing this so I can start doing that. And that's the energy of Pluto conjunct this full moon. Recognition and clarity of where some doors need to close, because if I don't close those doors, other doors will never be allowed to open for me. And there's a real choice point here. And again, I spoke about this in the Lightworker energy update that, okay, there's no shame in like recognizing, okay, maybe I need to go deeper into this lesson in order to fully know that I've got it, that I've learned it. No shame in that. If you want to leave certain doors open because you're clear other doors need to remain shut at this time to deepen certain lessons, that's what this period of time is for, with Jupiter going retrograde, going back to relearn, repeat, re-understand certain things. And simultaneously, there are those of you who are recognizing in your own divine masculine energy, yeah, I'm good. I got what I needed out of that. I don't think I want or need to repeat that. Check, check, double check, got it. I'm good. So either one is fine, no judgment on where the lesson or where the growth is for you at this point. And, to the best of your ability, my invitation to you is to not judge what your partner needs to do at this point. If they need to repeat certain aspects of growth, then they need to repeat that. If they're ready to move forward from certain things because they really got it and they're now closing the door without any regrets, then that's fine too. For some of you, this is going to mean, before you actually get a divorce, giving a marriage a second chance, before you walk out on that job, petitioning for a promotion, before you let go of that friendship, having a difficult conversation, before you give up on that particular dream, giving it one last shot. And this could be, like I said, male or female. Doesn't matter your gender that you identify as, because we all have innate divine masculine and divine feminine energies. So look for where the lesson is for you. And if you need some help finding that, again, I'm available over at kmoonastro.com for the personal reading, because this is really more of a personal period of time. But you can certainly book a twin reading and get some better understanding and insights into your twin connection. But I have found, even in my twin readings at this time, the information that's coming through is far more individualized for each person, whether they're, in some form of 3D romantic union or in separation. Okay. We have divine masculine also speaking to creation goddess here. And we have an opposition to Venus and Mars. We've got a square here to Ceres, as Ceres talks with Lilith. This is very interesting. And a sextile to Pholus. Where is Pholus? All right. So when I add these other layers, these other pieces to the puzzle at the angles that they're hanging out at, what's interesting to me, and this is the way you're going to know, which direction you're headed in, is that Jupiter opposing Venus gives and lends itself to an energy of kind of overindulgence, kind of overpromising, overspending, oversleeping, overeating, over sexing, like just, fill in the blank with whatever coping mechanism or whatever addiction is your go-to when fear is up. And we all have our go-to when fear is up. Some of us Netflix, some of us eat, some of us fuck, some of us sleep, some of us spend money, some of us incessantly scroll through social media. Whatever your go-to is when your fears come up, this period of time is going to press those particular buttons hard, and you're going to watch right as we're heading into this full moon. And in the days after, the week after, you're going to be like, oh yeah, something did come up. And this is going to be your cue. because the overindulgence piece is trying to reveal to you that a fear has surfaced, it's bubbled up to the surface, and it needs some attention. It needs some TLC, some care, some time. And what's interesting about this is that wherever the fear came from, with Pluto speaking to Moon, I hate to say this, I really do, and this has been a recurring theme, that there's been something going on with motherhood and mothering over the course of the year. There's been a lot of significant energy having to do with dealing with templates from the matrilineal line, cycles that get repeated from the matrilineal line, our thoughts about becoming mothers, not becoming mothers, our thoughts and feelings about our own mother or the mother of our children. And so the button that's getting pressed at this time likely has a mothering link to it. Which area that is going to really depend on your life at this point in time. But the way out of the cycle is to look for, when did the overindulgence begin? What was the pain or the fear that got pressed on? And specifically, what was in that fear? What is it that I am struggling to face? Those who are ready will journal this out, talk this out, take it to therapy, or just meditate on it and get conscious of it and exit this cycle. Those who are not may find that the overindulgence continues through the full moon in Aquarius, setting up a deeper look at, okay, what's the connection between this escape mechanism, coping mechanism, and this fear? And that's fine too. You can take a deeper cut. You can take a deeper look. But the cue, the exit, is going to be by taking a look at that overindulgence and when did it come online? What fear was it masking or trying to create a salve or a balm for? What was it trying to calm down in our nervous systems? Okay. So it was a lot. I encourage you to re-listen if you're like, whoa, that was deep. Let me just re-listen if you need to, because there's a thread between the fear that links to the coping mechanism, which is out here, but then pre the fear, there's some limiting belief here. And if you can find the limiting belief here, then you're on your way to undoing the process and then getting on a completely different path forward instead of being on this one that has you revisiting the old cycle. Okay, hopefully that visual also assisted a few people. And the thing about the mothering pieces gave you a prompt at where to look. Like I said, it may have something to do with the mother of your kids, your own mom, your feelings about becoming a mom or not being a mom, or just patterns from your matrilineal line. Patterns can include things like eating disorders or loneliness or health issues, patterns from the matrilineal line around certain addictions or around certain relationship patterns or work patterns. Or self-esteem patterns. Just be paying attention to your mom, your grandma, your great-grandma, and any stories you received or things you witnessed to help you unlock what there is to know at this time. All right. I'm going to stop there. That's a lot to be looking at and examining. It's a really deep full moon. If you'd like to have a look at some of these things in your own natal chart, I'm over at kmoonastro.com. If you've heard something that resonates with you, I encourage you to hit the subscribe and the like button. I'm here every new and full moon to break it down. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.